Welcome to your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 3rd of February. I'm going to share some standout details to look out for. Then on screen, the event chart right at the start of the week always provides an influential backdrop for the whole 7 days. I'll go through all the influences of the week frame by frame to give you a really clear picture of what we can all collectively expect, and then go through each of the 12 signs from Aries through to Pisces, and you can relate to those in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. Thank you so much for joining me. This is very much a community. If you have any thoughts, please feel very welcome to share them. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please help it thrive. Click that sub button, but also the bell notification symbol. I'd be extremely grateful for your support. Also, if you'd like to take advantage of my unique offer just to the end of February, you can order your personal horoscope of a forecast and character assessment, your life roadmap report, at half price. Please see the link below. It will be just to the end of February. A new feature, if you'd like to have a video forecast for the year ahead, or have 2 questions answered, or even have me assess your solar return, please see the link below for those. That new feature means that you'll get a personal video reading emailed to you by me. Or if you'd like to have a one-to-one, please see my testimonials and check out what other people have found working with me. If you've yet to watch your in-depth February forecast, please see the links below for those, absolutely free. So this week sees Jupiter end its annual 4-month retrograde, and it's rewound 10 degrees from the 9th of October in the sign of Gemini. Now Gemini is very bubbly, but Jupiter is naturally detrimented there, but in that retrograde it's also clashed with the steely cold energies of Saturn precisely on Christmas Eve, and within a couple of degrees through the first 2 weeks of the year. But Jupiter going direct is giving us the potential to be much more enthusiastic about our connections to others. But on the same day, Venus, the planet of relating, but also of fortune, Jupiter, of course, the greater benefit, Venus, the lesser, moves into the fire sign of Aries. Now that is also a technical detriment, but it does bring that spark that comes with fire. And also Jupiter is going to be linking in a magnificent way with Mercury, which is aligning to the Sun all through this week in Aquarius. So communications can really start to get going, and particularly around anything around contracts or travel. So that's very, very encouraging. There is a quarter moon at the heart of this week. Our values are very important with the collective we've had in Aquarius, but the moon in Taurus is much more to do with money. If there is someone in our circle that we don't quite align to, it could show up with that quarter moon. But Venus then goes on to forge a perfect alliance to the deep, passionate energies of Pluto, which peaks on Friday. This can help us to be very connected to someone where we do have that simpatico and affinity. It could also have a romantic dimension for sure. In fact, when it comes to love, particularly with Valentine's Day heading towards us, if one person is prepared to be a little bolder, which Venus in Aries can help, that could pay off, particularly through some kind of group setting or meet-up situation. But as the week comes to a close, we do have a Mercury cazimi. But it's a superior conjunction because Mercury is travelling forwards. So a great opportunity to clarify up and think about our long-term plan, our connections to others, but also our higher values. On the screen now, I'm sharing the event chart right at the start of the week. And you can see that the Sun is at 14 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. And Mercury, just tucked up behind, is going to be advancing as the week goes on until the climax of that cazimi as the week draws to a close. But you can see they're both in touch with Jupiter. Jupiter going direct on Tuesday is a really positive thing, as I just shared. But you can see at the very start of the week that Venus is on the anaretic degree. But it's also very close to the node and Neptune. And that's really influential. In terms of the spiritual dimension, despite the potential for this week to be chatty, interactive and fun, if there is something that we're drawn towards in an almost hard to figure way, that could be the power of the North Node in its conjunction with Neptune. And because Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, there may be some kind of draw that we have to a particular person or way of approaching it, philosophies or even healing that really calls out to us in a very powerful way. But you can see the moon is very close to Chiron as this week begins in the sign of Aries. So that first house combination, very much to do with identity. So that's something to think about as this week begins. More structural way, Mars, which continues its retrograde through to the 24th of February, is in a very fine link with Saturn. Sometimes the things that we do behind the scenes, which aren't quite so obvious, can pay off over a period of time. So if there is something that you're changing around where you live, the thrust of Mars and the behind the scenes research and efforts of Saturn could yet render a very positive outcome. Please stay with me now as I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. Now, people do ask about what should I watch. If you know your natal chart well and you know your ascendant and your house cusp, it's pretty logical to look out for the ascendant. If you're less sure of the more natal-based astrology, the sun is at the heart of who we are. You'll never go wrong for reading for the sun, even if you look at the ascendant as well. The moon, I guess, is for people who want to look at things in terms of the more emotional dimension of their situations. And just to say, my new website has launched. Please join us at that at www.patrickarundell.com. It is going to take us some time to get it exactly how we want it to be, but it is exciting and it is much easier to navigate. Please join me and check out what you can find there. So Aries, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast begins with a very meditative, almost spiritual alliance in place in your situation. You may have been thinking about something very deeply indeed. It could be something that triggers some nostalgia, particularly about someone from your past. But also if you're someone who's very motivated to help those who are less fortunate, you may sign up for some kind of voluntary activity, you may make a donation, or you may want to book some kind of time away where you can rest, recuperate, perhaps go to a spa, perhaps have a healing treatment. But this week, despite that very gentle and beguiling energy, does have a lot of potential for spark and ignition, which is really exciting because you are a fire sign. So with Venus moving into your sign on Tuesday, what that can do is give you much more impulse to take action. Some of the action could be for a new look, to give yourself some kind of glamorous makeover. It may be to reach out to friends that you've not really been so much in touch with, perhaps because January can be, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere, a bit of a sleepy time. But Jupiter going direct on the same day is also going to engender a desire to be much more in touch, because Jupiter's retrograde has been afflicted in a big way over the last 4 months, off and on, by Saturn. And Saturn, of course, has been asking you to think very deeply about past hurts, separations, and perhaps some of your fears and anxieties. But a much bubblier version of yourself is really going to shape up from Tuesday of this week. And because Venus links to Pluto, but Jupiter links to Mercury and the Sun, and Pluto, the Sun and Mercury all in the sociable Aquarius. This really can be a time when you feel that you want to step out and reconnect. But because of that collective in Pisces at the start of this week, for some Rams, this could be people who share a higher purpose. For others, it may be that you just want a jollier time, because Jupiter can be about being much more bubbly and effusive. Now, both Venus and Jupiter are the benefics in traditional astrology. Jupiter the greater, Venus the lesser. Now, technically, Venus is detrimented in your sign and Jupiter detrimented in Gemini. Forget that. This is a time when bright blessings can come your way. The only catch really is the quarter moon midweek. If you are feeling a bit more impulsive around your finances, particularly around a future orientated plan, it might be a good idea to speak to someone who tends to be a bit more detached, who you trust, who can give you some good advice. But also, because of the sensitivity of the Pisces energy, if there are certain friends in your situation that you may even like, but you don't just align in quite the way you want, that quarter moon can make you a little bit more cool and determined to steer towards the people who do share your values. And as Venus aligns beautifully with Pluto, which is on Friday, the connection you have with one friend, perhaps even romantically, could be really heartfelt. Now, as the week draws to a close, the cazimi between Mercury and the Sun glows up. That's a chance for you to seriously think, but also discuss your hopes for the future, but also the things that inspire you beyond the material world. We can all be goal and status orientated at times, because there are certain things that we want in our lives, whether it's a new vehicle, a really nice foreign holiday, home improvements, all these things, totally understandable. But that Aquarius energy is really asking you to think much more about what really does trigger within you some kind of higher purpose. And it's something we can all gain from this week, to be honest, but it's going to be particularly so for you. But if you have been feeling that your life has been a little slower, almost like driving with the proverbial handbrake on, it wouldn't be a surprise. The need to stay in touch with the more sensitive energies in Pisces, particularly the conjunction between the North Node and Neptune for the whole of February, is going to be important. But one of the things about your sign that I feel doesn't get reported on in popular astrology is that you do listen to your instincts a lot when you make decisions. For many of us, it's when we don't listen to our instincts that things go awry. So continue to be guided by that, because that conjunction is very special indeed. And indeed, as February goes on, the social vibe that's shaping up this week will make way for a part of you that maybe does need some peace, some tranquility and reflection. But for now, I think it's a very bright and bubbly week in store for you. Just follow your hunches. It's been a pleasure being with you, Aries. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. Taurus, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast does have some contrasting strands. There's a lot of idealism at the start of this week as your ruler Venus aligns with both Neptune and the North Node. Now, Neptune and the North Node will be together for the whole of February. And in fact, as February goes on, being guided by your higher purpose is going to become much more important. But this week can give you some immediate opportunities in a more practical, worldly way. Part of the reason for that is Jupiter on Tuesday, the planet of fortune, goes direct after 4 months of retrograde. If you have been finding that you face some financial headwinds or finding it much more difficult to stick to a diet that you may have set yourself at the turn of the year, Jupiter going direct can just help the energy flow. But Jupiter also links brilliantly with both the Sun and Mercury. Now they're in the part of your chart to do with your worldly interaction. So communication around a contract, a possible job, or some services that you've got that you feel have value could be something that really goes well for you. But also your ruler Venus moves on Tuesday, but it moves into a very deep psychological part of your scope. In terms of romance, if you're in a relationship or you've been seeing someone off and on that you're not 100% sure about, Venus moving into the 12th house gives you time or the desire to think very carefully about what you really want. But it also can be a time when you start to link up with someone, but perhaps in a very confidential, perhaps even secretive way. Now Venus is going to go on to link to Pluto by Friday, and that link to someone could be someone you know through your worldly interactions. Could be through your work. It could be someone who's older or younger than you. But also, Venus linking to Pluto could see you researching your options professionally and perhaps even discussing the potential with a person in another organisation. So you could put some feelers out in a very discreet way with Venus's link to Pluto. But the quarter moon in your sign on Wednesday is interesting. If you're someone who is quite comfortable working in institutions, big organisations where there is a construct and there's a pretty set way of applying your knowledge and your skills, I don't feel that that quarter moon is going to be so much of an issue for you. If you're more of a natural bohemian, it could ask you to think very carefully about any job offers or opportunities that may be coming up, because they may call out to your pragmatism, but they could pulverize your idealism. And idealism is going to become more of a theme as this month goes on for you. So just be mindful of that. If there is a job there that looks interesting, maybe the package really is attractive, ask yourself the question, are they the people? Is it the right kind of environment where you can prosper? If you're someone who's much more orientated towards self-employment and creativity, this quarter moon is reminding you to stick with what works for you, because eventually that will give you what you truly need. Now, by the end of this week, the Sun applies to Mercury. That creates a conjunction where the two planets are unified. The Sun, of course, is one of the luminaries, but Mercury is about how we think and how we communicate. And it's blessed in the sign of Aquarius, to be honest. This is a sign that some astrologers say there is a technical exaltation, but it also rules the second decan. So your ability to discuss nimbly but shrewdly any opportunities that are there, perhaps with a potential client, customer, employer, or share to people your talents in a more visible way, is really going to glow up. So that's a tremendous opportunity for you. So I think this is a week where you are being asked to stay tuned to how you deeply feel about things. That idealism is important, but there are a lot of financial opportunities here. But if a relationship isn't quite working for you, that's an interesting change with Venus diving so deep. It could point towards your need to separate if it really isn't something you see for your long term. It's been a pleasure being with you, Taurus. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Gemini, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast absolutely sparkles. You have Jupiter going direct in your sign on Tuesday. Jupiter is about abundance, it's about expansion, it's the traditional ruler of fortune. The other ruler of fortune, Venus, moves into the most social part of your situation on the same day. But they're both going to forge very impactful links to other players. In the case of Jupiter, it's your ruler Mercury, which is in the part of your chart which is very much to do with expansion, those kind of Jupiterian values. Trying new things, being a bit more independent minded, perhaps thinking about travel. And if you're someone who is really interested in philosophy, maybe your travel plan will see you go to somewhere where you can enrich yourself in the local history, because Mercury being in the sign of Aquarius is great if you do want to add to your knowledge. That could be through an online course. It could be if you've got something to say through publishing information, perhaps on a blog, perhaps even with a book. But the combination of Jupiter and Mercury is excellent for anything to do with commerce. When these two are collaborating, they are the planets of business. Because Jupiter's in your sign, it may be that you're going to take the step forwards towards that opportunity, and your drive and enthusiasm is what can light up the other side. That said, there is a very sensitive collaboration right at the top of your chart between Neptune and the North Node. And on Monday, Venus is in the picture too. If you are somebody who works with people in some kind of caring role or nurturing role, or perhaps in a spiritual dimension, those energies are going to be very influential right throughout February. So that's really constructive. Of course, Saturn has been clashing with Jupiter, and that's not been easy. There may have been a sense of frustration that whoever you've wanted to reach in a position of authority has been a bit closed off to the ideas that you've had. That should ease. And also because Mars, despite its retrograde is in your sector of everyday finance, actually forges a very stable link with Saturn at the start of this week. If you've got a good plan that's well thought through, that passion that you've got and can share this week, coupled with the diligence and practicality, could be something that really reaches the ears of those in the know. What's not to like? Well, the quarter moon on Wednesday does have the potential for some challenge because it's in the very sensitive 12th house. If there is anything going on in your world that is a little more challenging, what that particular 9th, 12th house energy can do with the sun in the 9th is amplify. So a situation could take a life force of its own on if you let it. So it will be important to stay grounded. Now, as the week goes on, Venus then forges a very influential link with Pluto. Maybe you're going to connect with someone, and it could be in a romantic dimension, but it may be someone that you encounter through a group, a shared interest. It may be someone you already know. In fact, all of our alliances become that much more intense when Venus applies to Pluto, but in a positive angle like this, a sextile, it helps us to become much more aware of who we feel that natural kinship with. So that glow up is possible, but as the week draws to a close, there's part of you that may want to embrace some form of escapism, variety, change. That old saying of change is as good as a rest. As the sun applies to your ruler Mercury in a conjunction, a cazimi, that's going to add extra vitality to Mercury. So if you are feeling a bit stifled or have been, perhaps since the start of the year, it's the ideal time to head off somewhere, perhaps even last minute, and just have a complete change of scene. Even if you don't go anywhere very far, but change your routines as this week draws to a close, it's really going to enhance your spirits in a very constructive way. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Cancer, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast begins with Mars in your sign since the 6th of January, but in its retrograde, forging a terrific angle with Saturn. Mars in our own sign is about being bold and dynamic. And of course, the retrograde means that if we try to push the pace too hard, that can cause some issues. But the link with Saturn suggests that your drive, linked with a clear plan, could actually work out very constructively. But since Saturn moved into Pisces 2 years ago, it has been a little bit of a quelling of some of the energy that Neptune introduced when it moved to the sign, which it too rules, in 2012. And that really was pushing you towards a more spiritual dimension. And right at the start of this week, Venus, Neptune and the North Node are really bringing that part of you back to life that Saturn may have somewhat quelled. And it's ironic that Saturn is in such a constructive link to Mars in your sign. So if there's something that you want to make happen, Mars, you've got the plan Saturn, but you're also tuning into your reasons for doing it in a way which is enlightening, perhaps inspirational. That's that collective, and that could push you towards something that is very exciting. It may be to do with a travel plan, to be honest. If there is somewhere that has long been on your bucket list, you may want to make something happen at the start of this week. But Jupiter, the planet of hope and optimism, has been trawling backwards since last October in a very tender part of your chart. And because it was also connecting to Saturn in that expansive part of your chart, we don't really think about expansiveness and Saturn. It may be that your sensitivities have in some ways choked off some enthusiasm for life, particularly on Christmas Eve, when the two were squaring, the first 2 weeks of January when they were within 3 degrees. So Jupiter going direct and that collective in Pisces is all green flags for you to move forwards as this week begins. Also on Tuesday, Venus, also like Jupiter, a planet which brings benefits, moves right to the top of your chart. In a romantic context, if there is a tie which you really feel committed to and the other person is sharing that, the connection this week between Venus and Pluto, which reaches a climax on Friday, can really lock in that commitment in a very, very lovely way. And it could see you considering the next step. And if you don't live together, for example, that may be something that you'd be thinking about, perhaps all the way to some kind of formal service to celebrate the relationship. But Venus moving to the top of your chart can also be very useful in terms of your professional world. Charm will get you everywhere. And it's not about being cynical about it. If you're someone who's naturally good with people, that will just glow up over the next 4 weeks for sure. But also Jupiter, ending its retrograde, does forge a significant link with, first of all, Mercury and more broadly the Sun. And they're in the part of your chart to do with deep commitments along with Pluto. And that link is great if there's been something you've been researching or working behind the scenes on for some while. Taking soundings, it can start to gather momentum, which is exciting. Now, the quarter moon at the heart of this week is a little bit complex. If there is a friendship that you've got or a romantic involvement that feels a bit clingy, that someone's rather possessive, even all the way to being a bit controlling, you could resist that, to be honest, on Wednesday. But then by the end of this week, if you are needing to make some shrewd moves around financial resources, the connection between the Sun and Mercury, the Cazimi, can really give you crystal clear clarity to get something over the finishing line. You know, whether it is to do with an investment, whether it is to do with raising finance for a business or a property, or you're wanting to marshal your resources in a more effective way to squeeze a bit more out of your assets, I think you'll be right at it as this week draws to a close. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Leo, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast suggests anything of a collaborative nature could start to gain traction in a really impressive way. But the week begins with a potentially very tender connection with someone you're very close to, as Venus the relator links with Neptune and the North Node in your 8th house. There could be a very sweet moment to start this week. But then on Tuesday, Jupiter, which has been retracing its steps for the last 4 months in your sector of friendships, starts to go forwards, and Venus, the relator, moves from Pisces and into your sister fire sign of Aries. And that creates that combination, these are the 2 planets of fortune, a very different vibe. Because Jupiter has been afflicted by Saturn in quite a challenging way, particularly Christmas Eve, the first 2 weeks of this year. And even if you have had a long-term plan, which looks positive, somehow or another, maybe the practical parts of it weren't coming together, maybe to do with finance or shared finance. So if you've got a dream, that dream can definitely gain traction. But Venus moving into Aries also can see you being a truth seeker around all sorts of connections, and it's linked to Pluto, which reaches a peak on Friday, will help you to become much more aware of who really is important in your situation. It doesn't have to just be in a romantic context. It could be a colleague, a friend, a family member. But if you do have that simpatico, it will become much more obvious. The challenge perhaps is that on Wednesday, the quarter moon in the sign of Taurus, where you've had the disruptive Uranus for some years, that's suggesting that in one context, maybe a professional one, even if you're trying to lean into what the other side wants from you, they may not seem to be totally attuned to what you have to say. But keep the positivity going, because Jupiter's linked to Mercury is one of the most upbeat you can get in astrology, especially around the commercial world. And then as the week goes on, the Sun inches closer and then meets up with Mercury on Sunday, the cazimi. Cazimis help to radiate the Sun's benefits, the warmth, the magnificent into the other player. So Mercury is about how we think, it's also how we communicate. In the 7th house, it's asking us to be more attuned to our listening skills and understanding that when other people have a different viewpoint, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're hostile to us, they just see it differently. So you can gain some greater clarity about what other people want from you, what they expect. You can also make it clear about where you're coming from and what you're prepared to give. So that's a very, very defining part of the week. So even if at work there is a bit of confusion about what's expected or how you can meet a target, keep the faith. Now, Mars has been an aggravant in its retrograde since the 6th of January in your 12th house, because it has been stirring up some old sediment. But at the start of this week, it actually forges a very solid link to Saturn. And it's possible that if you are wanting to make more of your longer term financial prospects, an old skill or an old person that you used to be connected to could come back into your world in a very productive way indeed. So on the whole, Leo, this is a very, very hopeful week for you. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Virgo, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast sees fabulous possibilities for your ruling planet Mercury. Mercury in the sign of Aquarius amplifies your natural talent for analysis, precision, being very defining in your approach, but also looking to get some firm outcomes that are practical. The link between Mercury and Jupiter, the planet of positivity and hope, and Jupiter going direct on Tuesday, is terrific if you're looking to improve your professional prospects. So applying for a job, finding new customers if you've got your own business. But also Venus, the other planet of fortune, along with Jupiter, moves and dives deep on Tuesday into Aries. But for you, that could see a conversation that's been going on with someone you've been drawn to become much deeper, perhaps even more intimate. But Mars, the planet of passion, which has been retracing its steps since the 6th of January, actually forges a terrific link to Saturn in your sector of relating. There could be one friendship that's actually going to get stronger, and that strength can, with Venus going into a much more psychological area, be something that really can be sealed in. But Venus moving into the 8th house could also see you gain in a financial way, but it may be because of a partner's good luck. But if you are someone who has sadly lost someone, there could be some benefits heading your way in terms of some kind of legacy over the following 28 days. The quarter moon, however, on Wednesday is in your fellow earth sign of Taurus. It's really encouraging you not to be too productive this week. That might seem like a strange thing to say to yourself, but certainly not be too ambitious about being productive, because actually this moon could see a little bit resentful if the load gets too much. So yes, focus on the things that are really important. So prioritize your plan. Now Venus forges a very strong link with Pluto on Friday. If you are wanting to negotiate a financial matter, you could have some key fortune then. Then as the week draws to a close, the Sun meets up with Mercury, your ruler, in a GEMINI, one of astrology's very powerful astrological alliances. Essentially, the Sun in the sign of Aquarius is detrimented, but that doesn't mean to say the Sun doesn't still bring benefits. If you have been pushed, particularly with Pluto's help, to think again about what you do for a living, this combination can just help you to slice through all the different strands of information, chop it all up into the neat, digestible bits that are good for you to make a key decision. But if you were, for example, considering a pet, the combination of the Sun and Mercury could really get your mind whizzing about how lovely that could be. You may also have some kind of desire just to catch up on any domestic chores. And if there is some kind of labour-saving device that can help the domestic load, that could be something you decide to snaffle as this week draws to a close. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Libra, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast begins with a very special alliance between your ruler, Neptune, and the North Node. Even if Saturn has brought some demands over the last couple of years, particularly around your work, if you have been doing something that's meaningful for you and helps other people, there could be a real sense of what that has meant. You can feel enriched by that sacrifice, by that contribution. But then Venus is going to be giving you some return, because on Tuesday she switches into your opposite sign. Now, it's interesting because technically Venus in Aries is not its best location, but for you this represents the 7th house, the descendant, where we connect. It can bring greater harmony to all sorts of interactions over the following 28 days or so. But also Jupiter, the planet of hope, growth and optimism, which has been trudging backwards for 10 degrees. Since last October, that goes direct on Tuesday too. These are the two planets of fortune, but they're both going to forge links with players in Aquarius. Firstly, Jupiter links to Mercury. Mercury in the 5th house is cheeky, it's provocative, it can be a bit flirty, it's certainly fun and can be very social. So if you have felt a little penned in by all those workaday obligations and responsibilities, or perhaps even low energy, there's a sense of renewal that's going to come into your week, which really will be absolutely lovely. And then Venus connects to Pluto. If there is someone that you're really, really connected to, and it's a mutual relationship, that bond between you can reach a real high point by this Friday. But equally, you can be aware that even relationships that may have felt a little strained can actually improve. Because what happens with Venus in the 7th house is your natural talent for relating to people is going to glow up. So that's something that you can work to your advantage. Now, there is a quarter moon on Wednesday, and it's in the other sign that's governed by Venus of Taurus. In a romantic situation, in an ongoing tie, if you don't quite have that level of simpatico and you feel that someone isn't prepared to give you quite as much as they want from you, if you feel leveraged, that's something that you're going to resist. But the great news is because Venus forges such a powerful link to Pluto, if you need to share how you feel, assert your side of the situation, you can do so very effectively as this week goes on. The Sun then meets up with Mercury in the 5th house. And if you're single, honestly, what a great opportunity this week provides to get out and have some fun. Interact with people, meet up, have a coffee, go for lunch, go out for a drink, go dancing. Do anything that brings pleasure and joy to your life, whether it's going to watch a band, a play, a film, anything which gets you connected to others in a joyful manner can bring some real pleasure to you. If you have children or grandchildren that mean a lot to you, their pursuits and interests can also bring a lot of uplift as this week goes on. So it's a week with a tremendous amount of potential, but particularly for your sign Libra. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Scorpio, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast is going to see your two ruling planets of traditional Mars and modern Pluto right at the heart of the action. In the case of Mars, it's right at the start of the week that he, in its retrograde in your sister water sign of Cancer, links brilliantly to the rather steady eddy of the zodiac of Saturn. Now, Saturn may have been bringing somewhat of a restraining energy to your social, romantic, and more interactive elements of life, but there could be something that you get precisely in balance, especially if you're interested in higher or further education, because something may be calling out to you that piques your interest, especially with Venus, the North Node and Neptune in an exquisite link as this week begins. If someone's really capturing your imagination romantically, creatively, like a performer, you can really connect to that superbly well. But the thrust of Mars linking with the structural energies of Saturn is really excellent as this week begins. So it doesn't all have to be rather ephemeral. But on Tuesday, Jupiter, the planet of fortune, which has been tracking backwards in the part of your situation to do with longer term investments or where you're most deeply invested. If you have been finding, for example, being as close as you would like around a long-standing relationship has proved somewhat elusive since last October. It wouldn't be a surprise. Jupiter and Saturn have not been on good terms. Jupiter, if you like, in simple times is go, and Saturn is no. So obviously Saturn can moderate in a square Jupiter's exuberance, and of course then the retrograde as well. So if long-term investments or a business has been facing some severe headwinds, it wouldn't be a complete surprise. But Jupiter going direct then links to Mercury, and the two are terrific for business, particularly if you've got a home-based enterprise or you're working in your local community or perhaps with a family member. Something really can flame up more productively. Now Venus then moves on Tuesday, the same day that Jupiter goes direct, into the part of your scope to do with practicalities. There's a lot to be said for being thoughtful in all sorts of relationships with colleagues, friends, family members, or of course our partners. And Venus here encourages you to do those practical gestures that are often really appreciated. And it's Venus, after Mars is linked to Saturn, Venus links to your modern ruler of Pluto on Friday. This could lead to a conversation, perhaps around the domestic part of your situation. But if someone is being sensitive to you and you to them, it can create a greater sense of mutual respect, which is lovely. There is a quarter moon at the heart of the week in your opposite sign. Someone close to you, maybe a family member, could seem a bit out of sorts. Then again, it may be two people that you're close to and not seeing eye to eye, and you could find yourself called in to adjudicate. But as the week draws to a close, if you are wanting to create more space in your home, think about actually moving, downsizing, upsizing, but decluttering. It's a great opportunity to do that with the Mercury cazimi. And also, if you do work from home or some of the time from home, getting that much more organized to allow that so that you can really concentrate on the task in hand is going to be something that could really be a draw as this week draws to a close. And also, if there have been some do-it-yourself tasks that have been delayed or put off, the desire to crack on and get them done can actually be very strong as the week closes. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Sagittarius, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast begins with a collective in the tenderest part of your chart, the 4th house. That's how we feel about things. Just where Saturn has been perhaps causing some issues over the last couple of years. So if you have gone through some challenges about where to live, around the family dynamic, or perhaps you've had a lot on your plate, possibly with the care of people around you, I feel that something around that situation can just feel lighter and brighter as this week begins. But your ruler Jupiter has been tracking backwards for the last 4 months in your sector of relating and goes direct on Tuesday. But also Jupiter links back to Mercury in the chattiest part of your scope. If it has felt that your connection to certain people has felt strained or limited or inhibited, it's because Jupiter has been retrograde but also has been squared off by the aforementioned Saturn. So somehow or another things haven't quite been flowing as you would like. This week that all changes, because also on Tuesday Venus, the other planet of fortune, along with Jupiter, moves into your sister fire sign of Aries. And the 5th house is all about glamour, it's all about romance, it's all about socializing. And you're going to find, because Mercury in that quick moving part of your chart, Aquarius, along with the Sun, are angling to Jupiter, that there could be a very positive conversation you have at the heart of this week. It is true that there is a quarter moon. The quarter moon across the 6th and 3rd houses can stress us out if we try to be almost too productive. So The third house can affect our nervous system, particularly as the Sun is going to be meeting up with Mercury at the end of this week in the Cazimi. So even if you are excited about something, there's only so much we can pack into each day. So don't overload yourself with too much. That's really the lesson of the quarter moon. But equally, because Venus then meets with Pluto by Friday in an absolutely delicious combination, words have real power, and your words or the words of someone else could connect you in a very meaningful way. But Saturn, as much as Saturn has brought some restraints, it's also probably brought a lot of knowledge and understanding to what you need at the very heart of your world. And Saturn actually links very well to Mars right at the start of this week. Mars continues in its retrograde in your 8th house. Now that can be about shared finance, but it can also be about long-term financial planning. And the 4th house can be about property, Saturn too. So there may be something around a financial matter that you're just really getting on top of with the help of them angling so well to one another. But as the week draws to a close, I think there's a bubbliness that's inherent to your nature that may have just felt quelled since Saturn moved into Pisces 2 years ago, that just gets unleashed this week. You know, whether it is in your social life, an interest, a business idea you have, whether it's with people very close to you, you're just going to feel much bubblier, much more full of vim and vigour. And by the end of this week, there could be some delightful social opportunities which break for you. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. Capricorn, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast is likely to see broadly a lot of attention going on Jupiter going direct and Venus moving into Aries. But if we think about your ruler, Saturn has been causing quite a lot of mischief to the potential positivity that Jupiter brings. Jupiter's been in the part of your chart to do with your personal fitness, health, energy, work and responsibilities since the end of last May. But if you recall, just before Christmas and Christmas Eve, in fact, there was also a square between them in August. And that has meant that your thinking around those very areas has at times felt rather confined by your options. That may have caused some stress, to be honest, and particularly through the first 2 weeks of the year. But now Jupiter does go direct, it's free of that more limiting energy of Saturn. And ironically, as we begin this week, Saturn forges a really great link to Mars in your sector relating. Now Mars may be retrograde, it may be in its fall in that sign, but what this tells me is that if you need to set your boundaries in a more confident way, but especially around your professional work situation, that is going to really be possible, because Mars can give you a sense of urgency in its retrograde and in a sign where we need to be more mindful of feelings, that extra sensitivity to shape how you express yourself very constructively. So if you do that, if you have been toiling away, doing your very best to try and see some light in a difficult or tricky situation, the burden can start to ease. Also, right at the start of this week, there could be a conversation, a text message you get, some kind of support that you're not expecting. It could be a type of message which just alleviates some nagging worry at the back of your mind, and that's because of Venus aligning with Neptune and the North Node. Maybe a neighbour, could be a sibling who's going to be supportive, could be someone online, but it will provide some elevation. Now, also on Tuesday, Venus moves into the sign of Aries, which is your 4th house. If you're someone who is immensely proud about your home and you'd like to make some alterations, whether decoratively or new furnishings or rearrange things in some ways. Venus will help you to do that in the following 28 days. Also, it's possible, because Venus meets with Pluto in your second house, that money can be made through what you've been doing around a property matter, and you're going to get some good news by Friday. But Jupiter going direct in the sixth house can certainly be boosted also by Mercury linking with it in the second. And if you can take a proactive approach, even to the smaller expenses you have, micromanaging them, sometimes Jupiter can make us a bit sloppy, because it almost tricks us into thinking that everything will work out well without too much effort on our part. But I think Saturn has taught you, you do need to scrutinise the details. And of course that's part of who you are. You know, you are someone who goes through the steps in a very systematic way. So you get a chance with those two linking, they can provide an opportunity, but it may require you to analyse something carefully, which is ironic, because on Wednesday you could find yourself tempted to be a little bit free and easy with resources with the quarter moon, or spoil someone close to you. But if someone close does ask for some kind of help, particularly financial, if this has become something of a pattern, this is an opportune time, particularly with Mars linking to Saturn, giving you that framework to be more assertive, to remind them that their financial situation is your concern, but not your responsibility. That's theirs, and they need to sort it. Then as the week draws to a close, the combination of the Sun and Mercury and the Cazimi could give you the proverbial light bulb moment when it comes to coming up with a new way of earning extra money, or being more economical with the resources you've got. Mercury in the second house is a very kind of Tauran influence, but of course the host Aquarius is about innovation, doing things a bit different, having the confidence to maybe be more novel in your approach. And if you are someone who tends to be a bit more orthodox, the fact that Uranus is still in the mix in a positive way, really, because Uranus is now direct, and Uranus right through to the 7th of July is giving you the chance to try some different approaches which could feed into these more practical strands, because essentially the Sun, Mercury and Pluto are all asking to get the foundations of your world working efficiently. It's just the conversation has been inhibited by Saturn the last couple of years, I feel, and also around your health or just the obligations you've had. Maybe you felt a bit burdened, but I think that burden can ease this week, and as the week draws to a close you can feel that you're more on top of things than for some while. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below, and remember you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Aquarius, your week commencing the 3rd of February forecast begins with a delicate alliance between Venus, Neptune and the North Node on Monday. You might not have quite appreciated how much other people appreciate you, but some kind of signal can be passed you as you come into this week. Maybe it's occurred at the very end of last week. Maybe it's just your own assessment of your value, but it can be lifted, and that's delicious. But also this week, although all the attention will go on Jupiter and Venus, it's actually Mercury which is such a prime player. And along with Mercury, you have the Sun and Pluto in your sign. They're all going to be in the mix and in a very favourable way. But also your traditional ruler of Saturn starts this week in a helpful way too, linking up to Mars. Mars is about action. It's about a determination to use thrust to get things done. It's in the 6th house of health, but it has been tracking backwards since the 6th of January. If there has been something that you've wanted to move forwards with, and you've been really putting a lot of energy into it, it might not have been rocketing along quite as quick as you would like. And that may have caused some exasperation, to be honest. But it starts this week in a very constructive link to Saturn. And Saturn has been providing some challenges over the last couple of years to how you feel about yourself, to your sense of worth, also to the financial foundations of your situation, and perhaps also to income. But at the start of this week, your industry, Mars, linked to your patience, Saturn, can start, along with that triumphant of Venus, Neptune and the North Node, see things start to shape up in a much more constructive and positive way. Then Jupiter, the planet of hope, goes direct in your sector of speculation, the 5th house. It's not just about fun, showcasing our talent and personality. It is about speculation, and it has been tracking backwards for 4 months, but it has been afflicted by Saturn as early as the 18th of August last year, then again Christmas Eve. And that's been, or Saturn has applied a handbrake to the enthusiasm that Jupiter can create. So Jupiter going direct, but then linking to the aforementioned Mercury and also the Sun in your sign. Obviously, Jupiter and the Sun reached the peak of their trine last week, but Mercury's in the mix now. And Mercury can be about marketing, merchant, and Jupiter can definitely be about the deal. So those two linking together suggest that with the cluster in your sign, your initiative, your confidence to do something that really is helping you to express your uniqueness in a more confident way is really going to see you take a giant step forwards. Then the planet of charm, but also of money, Venus, the lesser benefit, steps into the sign of Aries. Now, Aries is a fire sign, so that provides a furnace of warmth around how you express yourself. Don't underestimate how much you can impact people with your words, but also your personality power over the following 28 days, particularly on Friday, when Venus and Pluto meet in an exact sextile. That's gorgeous. There's so much to go for. Is there a fly in the proverbial celestial ointment? Well, it's the quarter moon, because it's in your 4th house. It's just asking you, even if you're being very direct, if you're being very dynamic, it's asking you to stay aware of how things feel. And of course, Uranus has been hugely disruptive around feelings, emotion, family, home life the last few years. So you can get through this quarter moon for sure by just being aware that whatever decisive steps you take this week, and you can be very decisive, that you just base it on how you feel. Then as the week draws to a close, the Sun in your sign applies to Mercury, and that gives you even more ability really to project outwards the value of your ideas, but most of all the vibrancy of them. You can articulate yourself with enormous passion, but also clarity, cut through the fog, and perhaps reach people whose ears up until now may have been a little muffled to what you have to say. So it's a great week. You could feel more energized. You could feel that the foundational energies which have proved challenging become a little bit more controlled, if you like. But there could also be some karmic payback to you at the start of this week as people let you know how much they appreciate you. And as this month goes on, there can be more of that, because the node, North Node applying to Neptune, is for the whole of this month. And if finances have proved tricky, by the end of February, you're going to feel a lot more secure and things will be much better rooted for you. But there can also, to be honest, Aquarius, be some sparkling social opportunities, because Jupiter going direct in the 5th house is the sector of fun, enjoyment, sociability. The 3rd house, where Venus is about the quick communications. You're going to be glittering this week. Enjoy the acclaim, recognition and attention. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more. So Pisces, commencing the 3rd of February forecast begins with a glorious alignment, incredibly rare alignment between Venus, the planet of love, but also of money, and Neptune, the planet of dreams, and the North Node in your sign for the first time in 17 years. It's very, very rare, this. And this combination does ask you to have faith around some of the parts of your life that may not have been working as you would like. And do know that February can turn out to be quite the fated month for you, because on Tuesday, Venus moves out of your sign and into Aries. Forget the fact that Venus is said to be detrimented here. This can bring money your way quickly. It could also give you the desire to spend it, and it may make a diet plan harder to stick with. But with Jupiter, your traditional ruler, going direct on Tuesday as well in your sector of emotion, you may have found that some home, family and emotional issues have felt rather stuck, particularly since last August, to be honest, when Jupiter squared off to Saturn for the first time, then again Christmas Eve, the first 2 weeks of this year. And Saturn in your own sign the last couple of years has asked you to become much more ordered and organised, but in some ways strip your life down to what's truly essential. And that may have felt a bit challenging. It may have been a bit of an aesthetic journey, if you like. So the potential joy that Jupiter can bring has been choked off somewhat. It visits the 4th house approximately every 12 years. So if you've been wanting to grow your family, move into a property which suits your needs, there may have been something that's just stopped the process. But from this week, things can start to happen more dynamically. And it is true that the 3 players in Aquarius of Mercury, the Sun and Pluto, that's your 12th house. That's asking you to fall back on deep resources, past knowledge, experience, even old contacts, and even reapply those experiences in some kind of new way now, because Jupiter links brilliantly to Mercury once it goes direct, and it's possible that you could revisit an old interest or even a person you used to be connected to and think about it, Mercury, in a different way, a more positive way, which can help to release something that may have felt stuck. But Venus in your 2nd house also links to Pluto exactly on Friday. You may get some kind of message or even a proposal, but it could be discreet. It could be romantic. It may be that someone is interested in you, but perhaps is already involved or has gone through some trauma, isn't quite sure how you'll respond. Maybe it's you that's being a bit guarded about how you might go forwards. Just know that the quarter moon, which occurs on Wednesday, in a way confers that you are right to be a little bit cautious still, particularly about getting in touch with people from your past. But also know that you can gain a lot more clarity by the end of this week because of the Mercury cazimi. And even if it is clarity around some fears or anxieties or some inhibitions or understanding your subconscious more, you can do it. And also just to know that Mars may be in retrograde, but it's in a fantastic part of your chart, and it does forge a great link with Saturn at the start of this week. So something that does excite you, that you do want to be more proactive about, you can get the right balance of thrust and structure with those two working well together. But the thing to also bear in mind is that combination between Neptune and the North Node, which is so rare, is going to go on for all of this month. But they're going to be joined by Mercury on the 14th, the Sun on the 18th, and you're going to have a new moon on the 28th, which links to your ruler Jupiter. It is a square, but I think it's a square that can work for you. So whatever you may feel you're working through that feels sensitive, that you're unsure exactly how it might play out, you're actually preparing the way for when you're going to absolutely put on the afterburners as this month goes on. When you're going to see centre stage, you're going to be much more self-confident and much more dynamic. But this is potentially a bit of a bridging week, but there's still lots to gain from it, not least that you could have some kind of financial surprise that delights you from Tuesday onwards for 28 days. Have a great week. If you've yet to watch your deep dive February forecast, please see the link below. And remember, you can get your half price personal 12-month forecast, but also life roadmap reports, the combination of them, totally unique to you, fired to your email. Please see the link below for more.